Serious, casino dealers of Reddit, what's the most money you've seen someone lose, and how was the aftermath? I'm an analyst in a tribal owned casino in a not very wealthy area, so we don't see people losing in the millions. But we've got a few patrons that have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars to this over the years. Most of them are local business owners, or were owners that have now sold their company for big profits. So spending that much money here, and presumably the same or more at our local competitors, doesn't seem to be a problem. One of our biggest players for about a year was a little old lady whose husband died and she didn't have anything else to spend the life insurance on. So she put a few $100,000 into this over the year. Once she finished off that amount, she basically stopped playing altogether. She was just in it for the fun. She's spent enough though, and is a nice old lady, so most of the hosts comp her a free meal every once in a while, just to bring her in and check in on her. If she never spends another cent, she's still one of our biggest players ever. Word of advice though, those folks you know who won a huge jackpot, and have made so much money gambling, and are big winners, well, there's a really good chance that they're net negative when it comes to their spending here. We've had folks win $100k jackpots and still be $150,000 in the hole. That's how this works. You might have some big wins on occasion, but every game is advantageous to the house. Currently a dealer at a large casino in the US, not Vegas. I tap onto my blackjack game and this guy I'm dealing to tells me he is already down around 100k. He's a white guy, mid-50s or so, wearing a tacky plaid suit. He was betting 501k a hand, 2 hands every time. Over about 4 hours the guy floats between my table and the one next to me, buying in 10k at a time. I gave him one good chew the whole night, so I was busting his head essentially the whole time. A couple times it took longer for me to count his buy-in than for me to put it in my rack. Crap, there were so many $100 bills in my money box it was getting tough to put the paddle in it. My floor tells me after he leaves that he lost 209k after it was all said and done. He treated it like how I would treat losing $1,000 maybe. He wasn't happy, but he seemed like he could shrug it off. My floor was like, yay, I could pay off my entire mortgage with what he just lost. I died a little inside that day, but it's not my money after all. Ex-croupier here. I used to deal almost exclusively in VIP areas and private gaming rooms to international high rollers or top tier level locals. The regulars that come at least every week don't tend to play that big, between $300 to $10k per hand, and there's a lot of spectating and walking around and socializing. However, it's a different story with the internationals. The casino allows them to have a much higher maximum bet, up to $600k, and they get given their own private gaming room with only 1 or 2 tables that only they have access to. Most of the private rooms only contain baccarat tables, as that is what most of the high rollers prefer to play. The most I have ever seen anyone lose was this Malaysian guy I was dealing to in one of our private rooms that was actually connected to his penthouse suite in our 5-star hotel. He came to the table straight out of bed, still in his pajamas. He gulps down a cup of ginseng tea and slams $500k on the table. Loses. Another bet. This time $600k. Loses again. 3 more hands continued the same way until he reduced his bet to $300k and he finally wins 1 hand. He is furious that he lost all his big bets and his only win was his small bet. Because of this I got kicked out from the room, and another dealer waiting outside for this exact reason comes to the table and replaces me. The player ended that day with a total loss of $9 million. He was staying at our casino for 1 week, and the next day I heard he lost another $10 million. The next few days he was up and down, but he did not come anywhere close to chasing back his losses. Since that trip, from what I have heard, he hasn't been back to our casino. I dealt a party gao game, like poker, but players play against the house instead of each other. Typically, you bet the minimum and the bonus. It's stupid not to. The bonus increases your odds to almost 50/50. Without bonus, the odds were closer to 40/60. Bet $100 and you'd expect to get about 90 back. For instance, the game is very up and down. You win some and lose some and often don't go anywhere at all. A lady walks in, refuses to get the bonus, and proceeds to lose $10,000 cash faster than seems possible. She arrives at her last 2 chips with stunning speed, displaying the absolutely shittiest streak of bad luck I've ever seen. Against the rules, I suggest she bet the option with her last chip. She hits a straight flush, begins crying, and walks away with $20. Didn't tip. What a bee. Worked as a croupier and in VIP private suites for 4 years. Baccarat is the money game. Blackjack roulette, you get people losing $100, $200k betting up to $25k or so. A lot for me to lose of course, but nothing compared to what you see in Degenerate. Generally the max would be $500k per hand, but that's negotiable depending on the player. Someone losing $20 million wasn't uncommon. Someone losing $1 million you won't even be fazed. The reactions of the players varied greatly. People acted aggressive for losing $10 on a low limit roulette but would laugh if they lost $100k. In the private suites the players were allowed to abuse the dealers a lot more than what would be ever allowed on the public gaming floor. So you take some crap and learn deal with it. Obviously nothing physical. Generally the higher limit players weren't too bad. A lot of death stares and abuse in their language. Drunk idiots or grumpy elderly were worse. Oddest thing was the requests. Young male, Asian female, white female, blonde, brunette, no Chinese. From Chinese players, no bald men, no facial hair. I remember once they literally ran out of croupiers because they had gone through them all. A swell were the dealing requests. Turn the cards this way or that. Only use that hand. Don't speak. Don't look at me. Got some really odd requests and you just did it. Superstitions becoming a joke after you see the ridiculousness of people. People ask this question a lot when they find out I'm a dealer. Money is money. But what people don't get is that the people who play the crazy amounts of money, 99% of the time, they have that money to burn. The really sad ones, the ones that stick with you, are the ones who come every day and spend $500 or less. And you know as the person standing there taking their money, that they can't afford it. They start off all happy-go-lucky. Maybe they win their first couple of times out. Nice people, usually. Then they keep coming out. You see them 3 or 4 times a week. Then they are still sitting where you left them when you finished your last shift the day before. Still wearing the same clothes. It's a weekday, and they work at a bank. You know this because you talked to them for 8 freaking hours several times before. They didn't go to work. They lost too much money and had to get it back. But then the ATM stopped giving, so they had to wait until morning so it would give again. They turn more and more sour. They get more and more hunched as they play. They get up to walk around after you take all the money they have on the table, and you think they might leave. Then they head in the direction of the ATM. Then once in a while, someone just stops showing up. I work 2 AM to 10 AM, so most of the people I see are these people. You don't know why, or what happened. Maybe they quit cold turkey, or maybe not. Maybe they found something else to do with their time and money. Then you hear that some dude shot himself in a casino parking lot somewhere nearby, and you hope it wasn't that person you saw every day. I guess this isn't the most I've ever seen, but it's the worst. Casino dealers are notorious degens. Usually they just gamble, drink, or drug their entire paychecks, then borrow money to float the bills and rinse and repeat until they win big, which floats their habit for a few weeks or months, or hit bottom. Anyways, I was day shift and it was about to change to evening shift. One of the dealers for evening sat at my table a few minutes before he had to start his shift and bought in $10k. He bet table max on a carnival game across the table and lost it all in 5 minutes without ever winning a hand. He did this twice more, then left in a hurry. I got off my shift and went out front to leave, and he was pacing around smoking. He told me he lost his entire life savings and he didn't know how to tell his wife. He asked if I wanted to buy his car or anyone that might want to buy it. The most I ever saw someone lose was a few $100,000 by a big name poker player on dice in like 3 rolls. I am not a dealer, but I was sitting by a guy who was playing blackjack at his own reserved table. He had stacks and stacks of $500 chips and was betting a few thousand per hand and losing almost all of them. Within 20 minutes I watched him lose over 10k and just pull out his wallet and grab a huge stack of $100 bills and throw them in the dealer's face. It was crazy because if anyone else did that they would get kicked out, but they didn't do anything to him because he was losing so much money. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen in a casino. He eventually lost all the money and the floor manager camped him a room and walked him off the floor. Meanwhile I'm at the next table over betting $5 a hand, getting P when I lose. The most I've seen someone lose wasn't in the amount of money per se. It was the gas money home that I saw that hit these people hardest. If someone is gambling hundreds of thousands, they probably have the means to at least eat and move around in a vehicle. Even if they lose it all, at least they have some assets. The poor folks that gambled for hope were, by far, the most shocking experiences I've ever had during the short time I spent dealing blackjack. Was in Vegas a few years ago and had to steer some old ladies away from a screaming hair-pulling fight in the street between some 20-ish chick and her stupid 20-ish boyfriend who had just gambled away the money they needed to get bus tickets back to LA. Couldn't really blame the chick, but on the other hand she was dumb enough to date him, so. Not a dealer. Was in Vegas, staying at the Aria. Walked down to the casino at 6:30 am. Heading out to go to Red Rock Canyon in the early morning. Stopped by a roulette table where one Asian guy was playing. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Hair all disheveled. Wearing a grey tracksuit. He's surrounded by suits, pit bosses, managers, etc. He's throwing chips down on the table like they're going out of style. Stacks of 4 or 5 chips, and 15 or 20 bets across the board. Conservatively 60 chips per bet. Then, I notice the color. They're yellow chips. 1k each. He just laid minimum 60k on the table. I grab my wife and say, holy crap. We need to watch this guy for a minute. They spun the wheel. He missed on the number, but won on 2 sides, on 2 corners, on the color and on the 12s. Now, I don't know at this point if he was up or down on that individual bet. The croupier raked the money, paid him his winnings, and then the guy did it again, and again, and again. We watched him for 5 spins. Again, conservatively, he gambled 300k in 10 minutes. We had to run, but that was a heck of an experience just watching someone like that. We gambled 80 bucks. My wife won 80, and I lost 40. That was it. Player here, not a dealer. I was at the craps table and had several bets paying me real nice, and there was finally a crowd and lots of cheering and the dice kept rolling. Everyone was playing on the same side and rooting for each other. Then this guy walks up and very publicly announces that he is playing against the roller and places a $1,000 bet and immediately loses when the dice are thrown. Everyone else is happy, of course. The guy does this for several rolls before he finally wins one. Groans all around as we lose our bets. The next roller went on a crazy streak that won me several hundred, but that one guy always bet against the players and lost about 20k on that streak. Then he says sadly that the money was his son's college fund. You'd think the table would feel bad for him, but it just made everyone hate him more. He'd lost about 30k at this point, but he was convinced that he could win it back with bigger bets. He started placing 5k and 10k bets and I don't remember him winning anything. He was down probably 100k before he left finally and looked like he was going to shoot himself. Dealer of 7 years and floor supervisor. Pit boss. For 3. A few years back I saw a big player lose $320,000 in 25 minutes. He had just sat down with 3 full racks of $1,000 checks. Chips. A rack holds 5 stacks of 20 checks. So each of these racks held $100,000 in checks. I was on my way to a 20-minute break as he was just getting started. As I returned to the floor, I noticed that he now only had 2 rows of checks left. $40,000. 5 minutes later, my friend who was in the section where this player was playing informed me that he had lost the last $40,000, rebought for $20,000 and then lost that in a matter of minutes. This is a player who gets whatever he wants. We don't do bottle service at our tables at my casino, but this player will have a bottle of wine sent to his game. He, obviously, will have a reserved table waiting for him when he arrives and will get his choice and dealer as well. He doesn't like to talk to the dealer or supervisor and no other guests are allowed to watch him play. He will have multiple filet mignon meals waiting for him to go. Upon his departure, he has his own parking space near the front doors, like an actual spot with his initials that nobody else can use. Losing that amount of money didn't seem to faze him and I've seen him back many times since. This is small potatoes, but I don't gamble much, and one of the few times I've been at the blackjack table in a non-Vegas casino I was sitting next to a guy who'd been there since 6 p.m. the night before. It was 3:30 p.m. the next day. Floor boss employee confirmed it and knew him as a regular who does this often. Considering I don't gamble much and $20k to me is a down payment on a nice butt house, I was floored, and he looked the part, edgy, wad, looked like he had been up for days. He went into his life story on how he gets his money, which sounded shady, like he was robbing his small business to pay for his gambling habit, and overall was a sad experience I don't wish to repeat. Dealer in a large Nevada casino. I've seen people lose tens of thousands and continue to walk back from the ATM all day long, smile on their face, friendly as ever. I've also seen some people lose no more than $60 on the verge of tears and talk about killing themselves when they go home, which we are required to report. The other day I dealt to a guy that lost $3,000 and when he was down to his last 3 blacks, he said he hated me and then got up to walk away, then turned around and slammed the chips down in the betting circle and yelled, "Oh, just freaking take it from me. I got a blackjack." He threw his drink and broke glass everywhere. Security escorted him out. One of the training videos that they show us for Nevada Gaming Commission includes a video of a woman hitting a slot jackpot for $10,000, and when they came over with the big check, she was crying. So they asked her what was wrong and she told them how she had taken a second mortgage out on her home to gamble and the jackpot didn't even put a dent in it. I have tons of stories, but the majority of people are responsible gamers, to be honest. I used to play poker a lot. Too bad I have responsibilities now. I thought it was crazy when someone would flip crap and start buying in for the max $1,000 in $2.5 no limit games and shove every hand blind. That was always amusing to watch. Some dude would come in, think he's the best poker player ever, and lose a few hands. It would always be the same, I guess any 2 cards. Hey, I might as well not even look at my hand and shove blind every freaking time. No dude, you just don't understand how to play your hand. And it was always the guys with like $100k in their wallets. There were nights I'd leave with 6-8 times what I sat down with because these hotheads lost their freaking cool. And since I was usually there for entertainment, sometimes I'd just frick with them by playing bad hands, hoping to put those types of people over the edge. So much fun to watch. I worked in a Belgian casino for a while and there we had a big spender come over and play roulette. I suspect he had a small printer in his inside pockets because the €500 bills just kept on coming and he was there several hours playing every spin. Freaked me out. I want, Ed, that printer. He had a weird system for playing as well, but I guess a lot of systems are flawed to say the least. Same number over and over, and when he finally got it, put all his winnings on and around the same number. Maximum bets and clean. A cheval. Carré. If he got the number a second spin he'd do the same. So all his winnings back on that same number. He had this at least 2 times when I was spinning, but every time everything went back on the board. At the end of the day he had lost over 35,000 euros and he barely even blinked. I didn't even enjoy playing, or he didn't show it for that matter. His wife, mistress, was bored out of her mind and they both just sat there, playing and drinking, not excessively. So I'm not a dealer but have been working in a casino for about 8 years. I worked in security, marketing and currently in the information technology department. I have an interesting story about a guy who I escorted out of the casino one morning while working in security. I received a call from security dispatch to escort a man from the cage to valet who won a large jackpot. This was slightly typical but not necessarily the norm. I arrive at the cage and watch this guy get paid out 85k, cash, all large bills. Definitely the most money I have even seen in my life at one time. I'm thinking, dang, that's awesome. This guy just came up in life, right? However, I noticed the guy isn't even cracking a smile. He even looks kind of somber and worn out. This guy was prob mid-40s, normal looking guy there at the casino at 3 AM, alone. He double counts the stacks of bills. He gives me a nod and we head for the door. On the way out, 23-year-old me says something along the lines of, "Wow, 85k, congrats." The guy looked at me, paused for a moment, then said, "I had 145k in the machine." I learned right then and there casinos are not built on winners. I used to deal at a small casino in Australia. There was a small game called Caribbean Stud, a poker variant where you are dealt 5 cards, no swaps, and get paid out on the value of the hand, assuming you beat the dealer. There is a $1 bonus entry as well, where you get access to a percentage of the bonus pool for hands higher than a full house, FH $500, 4K 10%, SF 25%, RF 100%. The pool is made up of a percentage. I think it was 80 or 90% of money put on the bonus bet, but the house also kickstarts the pool with $10K when the bonus is won by RF. Now the game is usually very innocuous. We would deal 140 stints, and usually you would be seeing 2 4-folds of a table of 7, a couple of pairs and or high cards and maybe a 2 pair occasionally. When the hand is over, dealers starting on their left start turning over the players' cards one player at a time, paying them out and clearing their cards as they do so. The bonus this night was up around $500K. Seemingly dull hand, clear a couple of pairs, then turn over a royal flush. Guy does his massive celebrations. Pit boss and floor manager come over to oversee the payout. Chip runner brings over some $100K chips. It was a $5 table with about $5K chips in it. Bonus resets. Guy is happy, gets down and leaves. Clear another couple of pairs and on the far right is another guy with his head in his hands not looking at anyone or anything. Hadn't noticed him not look up for ages. He looks up, fairly tear-stained face. I turn his cards to reveal a royal flush. Same process, except this guy only gets $10K. He was happy but essentially he lost $490K by someone winning the jackpot a few seconds earlier. Odds of that happening are ridiculous. I'd never seen a straight flush before, and only a handful of full house and 4 of a kinds. TL. DR. 2 guys win the Caribbean Stud jackpot in one hand. The first gets $500K, the second $10K because of how the jackpot is structured. So, I am kind of friends with a high roller who I saw lose $600K. Let me explain. I know a guy who knows a high roller. Sometimes, I get to crash their trips with my girlfriends, which means we get a camped room at some swanky Vegas hotel. Corner suite. Money to gamble with. Normally like $400 a day food and drink credit. All we have to do is get there. Anyways, we've done this on this guy's name multiple times, and he's met us each and every time and couldn't pick us out of a lineup if he tried. Sometimes, he likes to hang with the plebs, so we're hanging at our slots, and I look over and he's at a roulette table, and I'm like, hey friend, look, it's the guy bankrolling this. And she's like, let's go see what he's doing. He lost around $600K on one roll, goes straight to the bank and takes out close to $1 million chips and goes back to roulette. Later that day ran into him at a blackjack table and decide to sit down and play a couple hands next to him. I guess the table got hot when we sat down. He looks over at us and is like, I've been having the shittiest luck all day. You girls must be my lucky charms. Nice to meet you. Bro, this was the 5th time we've been out here on your name. LOL. Probably 20 years ago I sat down at blackjack. I think it was at the Palace. Only other person at the table was this ridiculously attractive Asian broad with 3 guys in suits standing behind her. We played for about an hour and I could tell she didn't want any conversation. And I was doing really crappy, probably down $3,500 or so. Anyways, she got up eventually, bowed to the dealer and tipped him $5,000. Then she came over and gave me a hug while I felt something heavy fall into my coat pocket. Sure enough, it was a roll of money around $4,000. The dealer told me she was some kind of superstar from Japan and she must really like me, because she usually hates the type of Americans that gamble at her limit. I've always told myself that she was on her way out on a jet and didn't know what good $40 100.00 bills would be in Tokyo, or was just too lazy to give a crap. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.